Welcome to Behind the Curtain Finance with Thomas Manetta. I am your host, Thomas Manetta. This is a podcast where we try to have interesting conversations that help both financial advisors and investors to make them more well-informed to understand the business better. And we couldn't have a more exciting guest today to talk about what has happened over the last few months in the industry and what's potentially coming. Fernando San Martin, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me. And I would like to take as much credit as I can. I could only say that I'm part of a large team that's has set for ourselves very high objectives. Very lucky to be here with you today. Thank you.
You're welcome. I'd like to just start with, maybe you can provide us some background and backstory of, the evolution of Hazel, your role in it, and how it, became part of the Altruist ecosystem. And then we'll talk about the rollout of the tax planning tool after that, if we can.
Absolutely. Yeah, I can touch base on this one. So, in case you couldn't tell from my accent, I'm not originally from the US, but I fell in love with the country many years ago, and I told myself I'm originally from Spain. Back when I was in college, that I would love to come here one day and make a living for myself. I eventually was able to, and I'll not go into the details of all my career, but uh, finance, data, software, and being in the US in the epicenter of what everything is happening has been a common topic or passion of mine. I've co-founded a couple of businesses here. One on the accounting software accounting space called Campfire.ai. And more recently, as of 2024, I co-founded one called Thyme, Thyme. Um, it's a good play on words. At the time, Mint was going out of business, and we
Right,
thought we could,
exactly. Yep.
yeah, we thought we could do better than that. So, longer story short, we set for ourselves when starting Time with my co-founder Daniel, the idea that the software that financial advisors use on their day to day was, with great exceptions, it was abysmal. We thought.
Mm-hmm.
So we said, what if we try to go into this arena? We thought financial advisors was really a pivotal role in society in the U.S. As opposed to say Europe, where I come from, where most retirement is provided by the government. Here, retirement is mostly self-funded, right, through
Mm-hmm.
401ks and the sort.
Right.
And that creates the necessity to understand your goals for retirement, understand your state. How much do you plan to spend? Do you want to take equity out of your house, right?
Mm-hmm.
So those topics, again, very fascinating to me, and we decided to go down that route. We built for about a year. It was a small team of three. Our first employee was a CFP. I'm proud to say. We were always thinking about our users. And about a year into the journey, um, Altruist, or more specifically, Jason Wang, the founder and CEO,
Mm-hmm.
and also Gokul, with whom I work now at Hazel. We had a conversation, and we quickly realized that it made sense to partner. And the rest is history. I mean, we joined forces with them almost about exactly a year ago now.
Right.
And we've made great progress. Much remains to be done. I think we're only at the tip of the iceberg
Yeah.
here. But it's been fascinating. I mean, the team now is 20 people. We have thousands of advisors on the platform, and the best is yet to come.
Yeah. I couldn't help but think that you are actually at the, in the epicenter, or at the epicenter of all of this change that's happening. A few months ago, you rolled out a tax planning tool that sent shockwaves throughout the industry, and I think deservedly so. Can you talk about that tool and why you decided to launch that first?
It's it's a great question, and I obviously love the topic. I should be honest, and this is behind the curtains. I obviously did not expect the reception we had.
Oh,
We like to set for ourselves aggressive goals. We never thought we would tank the market of public players as a result of this release.
yeah.
But from how much we see that's a painful experience for the stockholders, we also think that the market understood the type of opportunity that we were trying to seize on. So, yeah, I mean, I think your question was, what brought you to decide on tax planning, and why did you build that first? So taxes are, or particularly income taxes in the U.S., for most families, for most households,
Hmm.
is the main expense, right? Um, they're almost by design, I would say, very hard to understand and very hard to optimize for,
Right.
creating the necessity for professional help in many cases, right? Um, when you look at the ample opportunities that you have, the different levers that you can move from within the federal and the state taxes, um, there are great areas that you can tap into from, the classic Roth conversions in that magical window when you're looking at retirement.
Hmm.
Um, but also, things like QSBS, things like, I mean, definitely 401k matchings, the ever more popular HSA accounts. That is, you're not a business owner. If you're a business owner, then you have a whole nother range of opportunities. So given how everybody suffers or has to do taxes, let's say,
Hmm.
given that is the top line item in terms of expenses for a given household, and given that advisors are trying to ever more try to show value and build relationships with both prospects and existing clients, we think this is a great place to come in and help advisors deliver better advice, better service.
Yes,
Um,
absolutely. Yeah.
yeah,
I
go ahead.
go. Please go ahead.
No, and I think the last thing I'll say is that there was a technological win going in our favor here, and is that the technologies of document processing. We know tax returns come in large PDFs,
Yep.
sometimes 2,000 pages long, and the technology of large language models with code execution, so the ability to run math in a deterministic way.
Mhm.
The intersection of all these three made this problem that was once untractable, and when I say once, I really mean 2, 3, 4 years ago.
Absolutely.
This was really an untractable problem at scale. It made this very reachable within hand, within the investment of a talented team in San Francisco. So we went after it and iterated very close to our users, released early as we like, with a set of folks, gather feedback. And I can also share some metrics here that the on average, for every tax return we process, we identify $6,000 worth of tax savings via the
Yep.
multiple strategies we
Hmm.
have. I can go into some of these. Some of them are pretty funny. Pretty funny in the sense that they're almost. I like to say they're almost human in the way they're portrayed. And I can share examples in a minute.
Yeah.
Um, and we save advisors an average of 5 hours per week as well in this
Yeah.
process.
I think that really is for me being an older advisor from when I started and never dreaming that this would be a possibility even 5 years ago. And then, having used other tools like Holistiplan in their infancy, and then to see what it's now become at Altruist it's in such a short amount of time. It's amazing. And because it saves me, an owner, like I'm a solo practitioner, it saves me time and I can do so much and deliver so much value with it. It's really amazing. It truly is. It's not just it is about the dollars you put back in their pocket, but it's also about the time because that's so valuable to me to save time.
Yeah, so much. I mean, so much agree. I think taxes are a very emotional topic for most households.
Hmm.
For a lot of them, it's very obscure. Being able to present to, say, a prospect, hey, this is how much you paid in taxes. If you were to make 10 more dollars, this is how they would be taxed. This is your marginal tax rate.
Hmm.
You're not maximizing these, basic items like a 401k or an HSA account, and you should, given your life expenses, maybe. Um, all those topics first they provide an understanding, and secondly they provide an action plan, and they do so in a very human way. One of the suggestions I got from doing my own tax return through Hazel
Hmm.
was that being a resident of California, I'm sure you can relate, our marginal tax rates tend to be in the upper 40s, sometimes
Yeah.
even 50s. um, you're taking a 50-cent cut for every extra dollar you make. And this was the case for my savings account. I had a few $1,000s there. And Hazel rightfully told me, well, you could actually put that into a municipal bond in California, which is not taxed. The yield is slightly lower, but by virtue of not being taxed, your effective yield rate is probably closer to like 6-7%.
Yeah.
Right now, you're getting 3.5 on your savings, and it's taxed at again that almost 50% rate. So um, it was very telling, and it's the kind of insight that Hazel, by being able to combine sources and by looking at the tax return in a holistic way and putting it in contrast with the data you already have on that household in your CRM with your notes, your
Yeah.
private meetings, your emails, it's able to provide that kind of advice.
Yeah, I would also point out two things. It's not to be forgotten that taxes were taboo not long ago for a financial advisor. It's not something that it was like the third rail, you just didn't touch it. And that has obviously changed. And then, and now secondarily, this tool that's now native to Altruist. Um, I want to believe that and I think I do believe that there are more tools coming like it that will, optimize for estate planning, that will optimize for investment planning, that will maybe there'll be a liability management tool that helps people understand that side of the balance sheet. And then if I understand the technology correctly, all of these different, well, what formerly used to be silos, they will now all talk to each other, and they'll be able to cross-pollinate that data, which will give the client, the end client, a much richer experience. Is that far off? Am I
No,
close?
I think you're exactly, it's almost like you're working on the team because one of our values internally is this principles first idea, which
Hmm.
is when we're presented with a problem, can we think principle first through it? If you were to ask someone that has done the same process 20 years, hey, how would you do this in a new company that's trying to innovate? Probably their most likely go to is going to be to add another piece on top to make it a bit faster or to improve it slightly.
Hmm.
But I think in principle first, and by the way, there are many places that do this. Places, for example, Robinhood is famous for knowing this. They bring sometimes they like to bring in talent from the industry, but they also like to bring talent from other industry to
Yeah.
sort of cross pollinate. Um, we think, how can we reinvent this flow to make it much more powerful, right? We think of traditional software players. You mentioned a few of them. We think they're great players. We deeply respect what they do, and I think there is a lot of value as well, personally. Uh, but we look from the angle of given what we know now with what AI can do, particularly AI, again, the intersection of large language models, deterministic calculation, document processing, summarization. How can we reinvent this process to deliver on the outcome? Because very often we find that advisors are not, they do a process because they've done it for a long time, not because they
Yeah.
particularly like it,
Hmm.
or because it unblocks or because it delivers on a certain type of outcome. It's more that they're going through the flows, like, again, a lot of human, I mean, we all do this. Let's go through the flows of what we've done for a while. And even if we're not super happy with the outcomes or the results we deliver. So again, that's how we think about what to work on next. I can
Hmm.
I can also share that, again, behind the curtains here, right? Uh, Financial planning is something that we think is an exercise that financial advisors do all the time. There is tremendous value to be delivered. I would say probably the piece that if you're going to keep one piece that a financial advisor delivers, is probably that financial plan. Really, at any stage throughout your life, um, and we think that again, traditional players here have gone down the side of adding more complexity, adding the concept of royalties into income sources and patents. And uh, again, there is value there, and there are folks that conform to that.
Hmm.
But after having talked to hundreds of advisors, I'm surprised sometimes at how detailed of an analysis they perform on a financial plan. And then the deliverable for the client side ends up being a one pager of
Yeah.
mostly text.
Right.
I'm like, wow, okay, well, there's probably an opportunity to make this much better. You don't need to collect data maybe the way you do. You don't need to ask for PDFs and manually scan them. You don't need to ask for all these details one after the other.
Hmm.
Um, on the calculation side, obviously, getting the math right is table stakes, and everybody should get it right. So we're going to get it right too, but we can't necessarily compete right above that. But also on defining how the deliverable should be and the kind of outcome we want the advisor to achieve as a result of that financial plan. That's where we can play a bigger role. So that's where
Yeah.
we're doubling down. Um, that's our north star right now internally, a little bit on the product side. And as I said at the beginning, I think the best is yet to come. There's so many aspects, and that's what keeps us very excited on this realm. Is I mean, topics like investment management, like risk management. These are topics that we talk internally on a day to day. That
Yeah.
that we think there is great work to do.
So for me as an advisor, um, these different silos, they're all different. I have to learn a different, there's different. I have to learn all the platforms because they're all unique and they all have different ways of creating output for the client, and it takes a lot of time. But and like you said, the deliverable to the client, maybe it's not optimal. But if you'd allow me to just work on a hypothetical with you just for a second. So if all of these tools are native to Altruist and everything is being updated in real time, and the client gets to see that in real time, that gives them the opportunity to understand maybe what their financial fitness score may be, or what have you. Like, how close are they to optimizing their life? How can they improve it? And it's all this data, which only gets better over time, will allow them to know exactly where they are without having to go to different places to find that out. I liken it to like a fitness app where you have all of this data that's getting more and more powerful as like my iWatch gets more powerful. And maybe someday it will tell me things like my cholesterol level, my HDLs, my LDLs, and it will give me a fitness score. And I'll know with clarity, without having to go get a blood test, exactly where I am. And I think that that becomes, both of those things become important, and they're almost dependent upon each other. But if in fact AI starts to solve for diseases and we start living longer, and we have to make sure that our financial and physical fitness is at its peak, right? Peak game. Is that, am I just dreaming too much?
No, I think I don't think so. It's obviously, I would say it's impossible to guess the future, but we can make maybe educated guesses and again root them in maybe those first principles. I think one thesis I had, and I was wrong here, but maybe about a year and a half ago, I thought that models had sort of peaked in terms of power, that they were improving on certain aspects, but we had seen the major leaps in improvements already.
Mhm.
And I'm very glad to admit that today that I was wrong. I mean, models keep getting much better, and we've
Yeah.
seen what happens. For example, the news with Mythos. Maybe there is a marketing play there as well, but I think there is no doubt. I mean, we see with ChatGPT 5.5 recently released, you know, created a new level of benchmarks almost. So I don't think, if we are to extrapolate on this line, I think we can make the reasonable bet that models are going to continue to get better and better. The context management and tool execution for these models to fetch data and reason on outputs, for example, execute math operations, that is going to get better too. So um, I don't I think everything that you said I would agree with. The Where I would draw the line maybe in this new paradigm is what I would say that the human interaction is always going to be present. Nothing is going to, if you ask me, and again, extrapolating from the line that I see on the number of financial advisors in the US, the number keeps growing, and I think it's growing very healthily. It's growing healthily for a reason. There is a true demand. Advisors do much more than create a PDF with a financial plan. I think there is a level of human understanding that is uniquely human, and that's what I think that's the value that they're going to continue to deliver. Um, Everybody I think would seek that human connection, that human understanding, empathy,
Yeah.
relatability, and I think that's going to continue to exist. So I would say, when we have this on the Altruist side as well, our lines are, our incentives are very aligned with the way advisors operate, and if anything, we see the industry growing.
Yeah, I think that alignment is, I've talked about it so many times on this podcast, and about how after having worked in so many different other roles in this industry where I had to accept conflicts of interest, I don't have to do that as an owner with a custodian that truly believes in my success and wants to see me succeed, where that's not true in any of the other roles that I had. People ask me all the time, do I think that my job is at risk, or do I think that financial advisors, that they're going to lose their jobs, in the future? And I was walking my dog this morning, and I was thinking about it. And I was thinking about, if Altruist is able to provide all of these things that allow me to be, a better advisor, and all of the data that I have is recorded, so it allows me to be more present, to be more authentic, to be more engaged on the human level. What about the legacy players that don't have the capability of adding these tools in the same way? If you don't offer those tools to the clients, then I think by extension you're doing them a disservice. It's like you're giving them a substandard product, and in this day and age where all the information is out there everywhere, you're not going to be able to hide that business model. So I do think that some advisors, if they fail to adapt, are at risk, but those that understand the capabilities of what this technology can do are going to thrive. I really do.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I think my thesis, my personal thesis here, speaking for myself, is that markets can be irrational or not efficient in the short term, but they're very rational and very efficient in the long term.
Hmm.
So it is a bit, whether you're an advisor, whether you're a tech provider in this industry. you could maybe get away with some stuff in the short term, but in the long term, you won't be able to fight the
Right.
waves that are coming.
Yeah, I was thinking about how, the older advisors, and there's so many that are kind of locked into their business. They can't get out of
Mm,
it for whatever reason.
yeah.
Um, they're the ones that are going to be the most at risk. And then the ones that, are afraid to take the leap. And it's fascinating that Altruist just announced, Altruist Advisor, where they're going to help people establish their own RIAs. That is amazing because that used to be the biggest, hurdle for if you were going to make the jump. How much does it cost? It's probably prohibitive. I don't know if it's going to work. I have to deal with compliance. I have legal, all these things. If you streamline that and make it easier, I think that helps to, make that the people that are a little, reluctant to do it, to do it, maybe make it, that decision a lot faster.
100%. Yeah. Yeah. And what I was going to go with this is that more at a personal level for me, I definitely use Hazel on my day to day. And I'll give you a couple of examples in my professional life. And I see these on advisors using Hazel as well. They use Hazel as a professional coach
Yeah.
by virtue of being having a note taker in every meeting. You'll be surprised at the depth and the quality of the advice that it can give you on how you performed on a meeting, whether it's a
Mm.
prospect, whether it's a colleague. It will point out to flaws that maybe you weren't aware of,
Yep.
or maybe you are and you need to be reminded of. And it comes from I think one of the beauties is that it comes from a machine here. See, as humans, we all tend to have maybe a bit of an ego, and being delivered feedback as to, oh, you could have done this better, or you messed up here, can be a bit harsh. You might be a bit resistant naturally to that idea, but when it's given to you by a machine, I think it's very easy to say, oh, your guard is down.
Yep.
The machine can't offend me, really. It's only a machine. And
Shouldn't.
yeah, and then I think it makes it much easier to iterate on. Again, I use it really after all my one-on-ones with my manager. um, I use it in every occasion I can when I want to step up my game. And then I would say on the more personal side, topics like exercising, like dieting. Maybe you want to improve a room at home. As an idea partner, as a coach, it is excellent. I would
Yeah.
say.
Yep.
Um, so
Yeah, I think I would touch on one more thing that, again, I'll pull from my past in that when I was, a salesperson at a brokerage firm and I was sitting with the client, my brain would be thinking almost constantly about how I was going to make the sale. Am I going to remember all this stuff? All of the stuff that I shouldn't have been thinking about. That's what I was going on in my head. Now, everything is recorded. Doesn't matter what kind of meeting it is, in person, on the phone, a Zoom call like this. And even if you miss something, the model won't miss it. And so you get that, and it reminds you, and you're like, oh yeah, that's right. And so then you can just focus on the client, the conversation, and be present and not have all those competing thoughts in your head. And that makes you a better advisor. It makes you better at what you do, I think.
100%. And if you do this consistently, I think the value tends to compound, like anything. I mean, advisors, we're all very familiar on this industry on the effect of compound interest. I think
Mhm.
it's one of those things that if you do it once, it will be nice and you'll benefit. But if you do it consistently across your meetings, you'll be able to look back after a year or two and say, where could I improve across all of my meetings? What are the biggest areas of opportunities? What did I do in the last 5 meetings with this household? Even if you're at one point you're thinking of passing on the firm to someone else, you're thinking of an
Yeah.
exit in this industry. How valuable would that be for that next person coming to be able to review almost pretty much every interaction that you've had as the advisor with that household?
Yeah.
I think the likelihood that they retain that client in the face of that transition, I would say multiplies dramatically. So
Yeah, I've talked to Jason on this podcast about the very real possibility that a solo practitioner could build a business that's much bigger than they've ever formerly could, and they could do a really good job with it. And I think that's a product of having all of that rich data that you formerly would, have in a CRM and a silo, but now it's like it's all held in one place. So it's almost like your business is turnkey for the next person because it's already there, and you don't have. It's not like you don't understand the client because ostensibly maybe your paraplanner at Altruist maybe, is already doing that for you. And you're just the relationship piece. You're just the human side of it. And I think that's a much healthier business.
Totally. I mean, coming from the startup world, I can tell you here that I think what made software unique versus other fields of work was that in procedural work, the best is only twice as good as the average. But in creative work, particularly in software, the best is 10 times as good as the average, right? And that
Yeah.
unlocks the potential for VC-backed business to be created,
Right.
massive outcomes. You see companies like maybe Uber or Airbnb that serve millions, if not hundreds of millions of clients every
Mhm.
day across the world from an office in San Francisco. So we think AI is sort of bringing that paradigm again back. And again, there is another 10x that's happening. I think what AI allows you to do is that before you were always constrained by the tool. You could not, as an operator, you could not question the tool. The tool is a given, and I need
Mhm.
to operate to deliver my service, whatever that service is. With AI, you can actually rethink the tool to your workflow. So no longer you have to adapt your workflow to what tools are available for me to
Right.
perform this job. Rather, I
Mhm.
can say, what would be the ideal tool that I would like to see for this job to be done? And I think that's what makes this this paradigm we're living through very unique.
Mhm.
And I think the advisors that see this pattern and adopt it internally, they're going to see massive outcomes as a result. And to your point about the $1 billion solo firm, um, I've seen these on the startup side where it used to be impossible. You had to scale people because the tools were what was available. And now, I don't know if there is an example of a single company, but I see very small teams with massive outcomes on the startup side. So I think it's only a matter of time until that also gets to the wealth management side.
Yeah, I think that will be a net positive for the industry because, again, all those legacy business models will have to compete with that. I could keep you all day. I have so many questions, but I'm going to respect your time. If you could, I know there's been talk of a paraplanner perhaps coming online, and if there's anything else you can share,
I can
let's
share.
close with that.
Yeah, I mean, I can share a few things. So financial planning is what we're thinking. What we're thinking next, and that's a given. Um, what we're thinking after is, we want to double down on an integration game. We have a plethora of integrations today with players like Wealthbox, Redtail, Salesforce, HubSpot. Definitely the main, Google, Microsoft. Hadrius recently launched as archiving integration. There are a few coming there. For example, the Google Drive integration and SharePoint or share files so that you can easily
Right.
upload and communicate files with
That would be
Hazel.
great. Yeah, I thought about that. Yep.
Yeah,
That's
and
really
then
important.
yeah, for sure. We hear these constantly. The other one is telephony systems. I know, and this is a big omission for the Android folks. We don't have an Android app just yet. That is coming. It is worked on.
Okay.
We're not impervious to that. And the last thing is generating generating artifacts. So generating PDF reports, documents. Um, we have a little beta version going on
hmm
to a few folks, and that's going to be releasing in the upcoming weeks. So
So
Hazel is getting
that's kind of like a branded PDF for your firm that comes directly from. Yeah.
exactly. So
Well,
you'll be able to add some language there and say, I want I want a financial report. I want a snapshot of this household. Whatever it is you want, you can ask Hazel to create it. And for the first time, Hazel will be able to hand you a PDF, something that it wasn't able to do before.
yeah. Those are all really exciting, and I know there's more in the pipeline, and that's why I would love to ask if I could, if we could talk again in maybe 6 months, and we'll talk about how the world has changed dramatically from today. I,
Absolutely.
yeah, I really appreciate your time. This has been really valuable. I've learned a lot, and I look forward to talking to you again in 6 months.
Absolutely. Please have us over, and thank you so much for the invitation.
All right. This is Behind the Curtain Finance with Thomas Manetta. If you'd like to reach me, my email is thomas@manettawealth.com. My website is www.manettawealth.com. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for listening to Behind the Curtain Finance. Click the follow button to be notified when new episodes become available. Visit our website at www.manettawealth.com or give us a call at 415-640-2121. The information covered and posted represents the views and opinions of the guest and does not necessarily represent the views or opinions of Manetta Wealth. The content has been made available for informational and educational purposes only. The content is not intended to be a substitute for professional investing advice. Always seek the advice of your financial advisor or other qualified financial service provider with any questions you may have regarding your investment planning. Copyright 2025. This content, which contains security-related opinions and/or information, is provided for informational purposes only and should not be relied upon in any manner as professional advice or as an endorsement of any practices, products, or services. There can be no guarantees or assurances that the views expressed here will be applicable for any particular facts or circumstances and should not be relied upon in any manner. You should consult your own advisors as to legal, business, tax, and other related matters concerning any investment. The commentary in this post, including any related blog, podcasts, videos, and social media, reflects the personal opinions, viewpoints, and analyses of the Manetta Wealth Management employees providing such comments and should not be regarded as the views of Manetta Wealth Management LLC or its respective affiliates, or as a description of advisory services provided by Manetta Wealth Management or performance returns of any Manetta Wealth Management investments client. References to any securities or digital assets or performance data are for illustrative purposes only and do not constitute an investment recommendation or offer to provide investment advisory services. Charts and graphs provided within are for informational purposes solely and should not be relied upon when making any investment decision. Past performance is not indicative of future results. The content speaks only as of the date indicated. Any projections, estimates, forecasts, targets, prospects, and/or opinions expressed in these materials are subject to change without notice and may differ or be contrary to opinions expressed by others.